Welcome to Only Murders in My Mind. Hello everyone and welcome to this latest episode of Only Murders in My Mind. Going on to about 74, 75 episodes now. Did you know that, Mike?
I did indeed, yes. I know we're well into the 70s.
Yeah,
A bit like my age.
Yes. That was Mike Jackson that I've got with me today. And of course I've got Liz Hedgecock to
Hello.
co-present with me. And please tell me what we're talking about today, folks.
Well, I was going to ask a question. I thought I'd just change it around slightly this week.
Oh,
mainly because I came unprepared.
What, you mean you don't have a sheaf of notes?
No, I don't have a sheaf
always,
of notes.
Oh,
but
he's
I do have a
freewheeling
question.
everybody.
Yeah, I do have a question for Liz and for Carol. I'll join in as well. But they have no idea what the question is.
No, I actually don't. I'm
No?
quite nervous.
So this could be interesting. Are you ready?
Yep.
You sure?
Ish.
Okay. Only Murders in My Mind. Think about our title and think about the word mind that's in the title. What sort of mind have each of you got? And what sort of mind do you need to write about murder? And is there a specific murderer's mind?
Right, you said one question.
Yeah, I know.
That's three.
I know.
Three?
Well, you know me, I can never...
All right, so what shall we start with? What sort of mind
What
do
sort of
we
mind
have?
have you got? Yes.
Yes, I
Ooh.
mean, all I can say is the first book I wrote, the first Warrington detective novel, and Liz will tell you my detective novels can be quite bloody and gory.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes.
I gave it to a friend of mine who is an ex-policeman, and he was going, I thought Carol was like a genteel lady going gently into her old age. He said, she's a bit of a psycho, really, isn't she? And then a few friends have gone, how do you sleep at night? And I would go, very well.
Yeah, because you've got all that,
it out.
existential rage out in the paper.
Got it all out. So.
I was surprised when I edited it, I must say. Because, you seem very chill, very calm,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
there's all this stuff going on.
all
but
this
hey,
blood and gore.
it just goes to show that you can write about all sorts.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at some of the crime writers that we've got, I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of my heroes as an author is Val McDermott. Now, if you passed her in the street, you'd go, oh, look at that lady there. She's quite genteel. She's got, she's got the sort of silver hair and it's got a bit of a tint of red there, sort of thing. A bit of a hipster maybe. And the stuff she writes is like, it makes your eyes water. So
You like Agatha Christie. When you think of
Yes.
Agatha Christie, she came from a fairly well-to-do background.
Yeah,
and,
very.
You would have seen her as somebody quite genteel, ladylike, and I suppose we make assumptions about the sort of mind we've got. I mean, if myself, for example, somebody once said that I've got a very sort of butterfly-type mind because I'm always going from one thing to another. I land on something, I quite enjoy it, I play around with it, and then I'm off to something else.
So would you agree with that assessment?
Oh, yes.
How do you think does that influence your writing?
I think it's probably the reason why I settled on to writing short stories, flash fiction, and in fact very short stories, because that was a short span of time that I could spend on that. The odd occasions when I've tried to write anything longer, I've got myself bogged down, and I think that's partly because I don't have that state. My mind is already looking for something else. I get easily bored.
yeah.
Whereas lots and lots of short stories, I can flit around like the butterfly very easily. And when I worked as a head teacher, I had some excellent deputy heads because as a head I would come up with lots of ideas, but I needed somebody on the team who was a finisher.
Yeah.
And
So you're like a plant creative person.
Yeah. And
I think it's my bell bin there.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons I would say that I was very much a pantster as a writer, more so than a plotter.
Yeah.
What about you, Liz? What sort of
I
mind
would-
have you got?
Ooh, well, you can both weigh in if you like, but I think I've got quite a methodical mind.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
like
yes.
to be. Thank you. I like to be organised. I also like a project, and I quite like steering like multiple strands of something to a conclusion. Because when I was doing a full-time job, I was a project and a program manager. So you'd oversee lots of different things under a sort of an overarching framework, and you'd have to kind of get it all to a certain standard and stuff like that. And I enjoyed that. So, and it's handy, I think, for being someone who publishes their own books, in that you've got the book, you've got the cover, you've got the formatting, you've got the marketing. There's lots and lots of different things which all contribute to the whole package of a book.
So what about you, Carol? Going back, and I know you talked to us about how your stories are very gory, but what sort of mind would you say you've got? Are you organised? Are you...
Well, I suppose it was interesting because in the day job where I actually get a salary,
real work.
I had my appraisal yesterday, and one of the things that came up as a positive for me was the fact that I can turn things around pretty quickly. So if they ask me to do some training on a Friday that has to be produced by the following Wednesday, I can do it. And I love it. I get so immersed in what I'm doing, and I do that as a writer. And these rabbit holes we go down when we're on the podcast.
No idea what you're talking about.
Couldn't possibly comment, Carol. Couldn't possibly.
So I may be researching for... I tend not to do much research before, which is what most writers do, isn't it? They do their research. I do it as I go along.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll research maybe something to do with forensics. Is this possible? And then I'll go, oh, I didn't know about that. So sometimes, obviously, you can't put it all in your book because you're just padding it out then, aren't you, with information.
And that's one of the problems. I mean, I have read some books in the past which have been very good, except suddenly you'll get to a point and you'll think, oh, somebody's obviously done a lot of research into this particular aspect of the story.
And they want you to know all about it.
And you're going to get it all.
Yeah. And it's a very easy trap to fall into as well, especially when you are interested in it yourself.
Yeah, you forget about the reader.
Yeah, you've got to always, when you're a writer, you've always got to that the reader. That's why myself and Liz and other writers ask beta readers to look at the work, and it's not to edit it or put, you've missed a full stop there. I've got a very good editor that does that. I want them to tell me whether it reads well.
Yeah.
And as Liz knows, I have lost bodies in the past.
Talking about writing, I've mentioned this before, but I've got my journal actually on my lap today. But I like to...
I can confirm it.
Yeah, I like to do this free writing, which I try to do every day. And I think that very fits into my mind, because if I go back and read some of the things I've written in the past, I'll think to myself, where on earth did that come from? And one of the things with free writing is because you're letting your subconscious free in a way. You're just letting the thoughts in your head go onto paper via a pen. It's amazing what there is sitting in that subconscious. I'll look back and I think, where on earth did that idea come from? How on earth did I dream that up? And I, quite often I'll think, I just don't know. And in fact, I was doing that yesterday. And I was thinking about this podcast. I was thinking, we've been doing this for 70 odd episodes. I'm going to suggest we do something different. I know, I'll think of some questions to ask. Yeah. And I came out with about 10 questions through the free writing. Now, whether we'll use all those, I don't know. But it was just, I don't know where the idea came from.
Yeah.
I just started off with writing down, I wonder if we could do something different in the podcast. And from there, this idea or ideas come...
Yeah, but I mean, it's a very good tactic as well when you are stuck with a plot or something.
Yes.
And as I say, Liz gave me the hint to do 10 minutes writing a day during COVID, when everybody was like, I'm going to write a book.
Yeah.
I couldn't write.
No,
I had written a book.
Lots of people couldn't write during COVID. I wrote less during COVID than I've ever written before or since.
Yeah.
And certainly from the writers group that we all go to, that was not uncommon.
No, it was.
Lots of people saying the same thing.
I saw lots of comments on Facebook and social media about, why can't I write?
Yes.
I've got the time to write. Why can't I write? Right. Sort of thing. Yeah.
I also find, sorry, I'm hogging this conversation. I'll go back.
No, not at all. Go on.
That my mind is also the sort that loves new ideas, which is one of the reasons why I'm very much into AI. I'm very much into creating images and doing, 11 Labs, for example, have now changed their voiceover. You change text to voice. They've now built in that it puts in sort of, oh, did you really say that? The little ums and ahs and giggles. And I find the whole AI very interesting. And that's where I've always been. I've always liked to go exploring, going down these rabbit holes to see what new things look like.
Yeah. I mean, you just finished another one of your books, haven't you? The first draft or the second draft?
First draft.
First draft. And you plot yours very well, I think, before you start.
Well, I try.
Yes. Whereas mine are a bit wobbly, my plotting lines.
That's the thing. It's kind of a continuum, isn't it? Where you have pantsers and you have plotters.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the most plotty person I know, I don't think.
No.
In that I will leave some stuff open, or if I'm not sure about something, I think, well, the story will work it out, the characters will work it out. So, yeah. But I do like to have a sense of where I'm going. Well, the thing is, if it's a mystery, then you're going to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And you have to have a problem to start with. So, in a way, it kind of does itself in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I mean,
It's surprising though, isn't it? Because one of the things I was saying is that our minds somehow reflect the way we write.
Yeah.
We may be in a pantser. I should imagine Liz, because she's very methodical in her writing, is also very methodical in life generally, in getting things organised.
I have my moments, but generally I know where I'm at.
Yeah. Well, whereas I'm a scatterbrain, and quite disorganised in my personal life, but very organised in my work life. And always have been, because I used to be a nurse. I'd be doing something in the kitchen and I'd drop a knife or something, and my husband would go, "God help your patience." And I'm going, "Excuse me," because when I'm concentrating on a process, maybe taking stitches out, I'm there. I'm in that moment.
Yeah. Just as well.
It is,
Yes.
Very much so. But yeah, no, I am. I'm on the ball at work.
So
Worse at home.
why is I wonder if the three of us, we are very different.
We are.
Which is why we do so well as a threesome in terms of the talks we get and the fact that we give and the fact that we get on so well with this podcast. How come we all ended up writing murderous stories? Is this something in our mindset that makes us like to write murderous stories?
I'm just going to say I've got teenagers and leave it at that. I channel my violent impulses into fiction.
I mean, I've been accused of
kids.
Yeah, I've been accused of killing my wife on a regular basis.
Well, you have, haven't you? I mean,
And a lovely
poor
lady
woman.
she is.
Yeah,
She's
wonderful.
great. She doesn't deserve it.
Yeah. And I just love, as you know, because I've said it before, I just love crime fiction. I'm really intrigued about true crime, and I'm really sort of curious about forensics. And I suppose that comes from having sort of, as a nurse, a scientific background.
Yes.
And and again, something could come up in a show, and I'd be going, I wonder if that is actually possible. So then I'd do research into the forensic side that they were, and very often it was, but not in 2 hours. It'd be more like 3 weeks.
You see, now my wife is like that. My wife is a very methodical, well-organized. There has to be one of us in the house has to be well-organized, very well-organized person. And if she's reading a book, and she's an avid reader, she'll get through a couple of books a week. If she comes across a statement or a fact, she will then stop reading and check it out on the internet.
Wow.
She and she learns quite a lot that way. But she'll say, "No, I'm not sure that's." I just need to.
Hardcore. That.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
Whereas I would just skip over it.
Yeah, no, I would as well.
I would just
probably.
accept it.
I'd probably think, I might check that later, but I
Yes.
won't stop reading.
Yes.
But when it's my own writing, when I'm actually writing a book myself, then you're more aware that what you're writing will be held up, and people will go, "Well, that she's not got that right at all." And I do try to stick to police procedural terms and what they do, and some of my forensics, is because they've got mates in high places, can get DNA done really quickly. But I know,
Luckily.
I know in fact that would not happen.
Yeah. Do you think maybe our murderous minds are also part of the fact of the stuff that we've read in the past? When I think from a very early age, once I'd got past Enid Blyton, I was reading books that were detective,
But
great fan of Agatha
Enid
Christie.
Blyton, Famous Five, Secret Seven,
Yeah.
Five Find Out. There's lots and lots to go at there, and I know loads of people who say, "Oh, I read so many Agatha Christie's when I was a teenager."
Yeah.
So it's kind of in you, isn't
Yes.
it? And we're
Yeah.
all exposed to mystery and crime. It makes great TV,
Yeah.
so of course we've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a teenager, Agatha Christie, yes, Arthur Conan Doyle, you
Yeah.
know, all that you expect. So it's almost built into your DNA in a way that
And it's
if you're
also
going to do any
kind of-
writing, you're going to be influenced by what you've read.
Yeah,
You've
and it's
got
kind
to.
of grown-up books that your parents are fine with you reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, some advice, if somebody ever asked me for advice as a potential crime writer, one of the things I would say is read. Watch true crime, listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't listen to them all. I've just personally just listened to this one, but
just to give you a taste of the sort of things that, when you take a fictional crime and then you can nearly always find one that is real, that will be parallel to it. They're usually stranger, aren't they? True crime is as you do the little shorts, wasn't
yes,
it?
yeah.
Strange. Was it true
True
crime?
but strange but true crimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
are. They're
Yes.
amazing. Some of the things you've put up. It's like, really? Do people really do that?
But yeah. Do you prefer writing, drafting, or editing?
Drafting.
I'm drafting as well.
Yeah.
I know people who actually prefer editing.
No.
I find that weird.
I know it's got to be done. And
I say this as someone who also edits.
yes, as an editor,
as a job.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, and that's another piece of advice I always give potential writers: get a good editor. It doesn't matter how good you are at English; you need somebody else to read it for you.
One of my favourite books that I read, probably 15 years ago, is Stephen King. Not his novels, but this is about writing. He's written a book called On Writing. If you just want a good read, it's an excellent read. And one of the things he says is that, writers need to read,
Yeah.
as you said,
Yes.
Carol.
Yeah, you do.
So what do we all read?
Oh, well, I'm reading a book by Martin Edwards at the moment.
Oh, right.
Actually, when I say reading, I'm listening to
Yes.
it as
You're still
an
reading
audio
it?
book. Yes, because he's a local author, and I wanted to see what he was writing. And this particular book is based where I used to live in the Lake District, so I know what he's talking about when he's referring to different villages and things as well.
Cool.
Well, yeah, so and it's I quite like it. It's the main character is I'm trying to think, is it Kind? His surname.
Be kind?
No.
No.
But
That one fell flat.
yeah,
didn't
it did.
Yeah.
Because
Liz, you can't see, but Liz is just giving me a funny look.
at the moment, that's going over my head. No, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm sure it won't be the last one of his that
So do
I
you
write.
read mostly mystery and crime, or do you mix it up?
It is mostly crime books that I read, and it's a mixture of reading them on my Kindle and listening to audiobooks. As I've said before, I do a lot of travelling with my job, usually on trains, and I can't read anymore on a train because get motion sickness. I never used to, but I do now.
I've always read a lot of science fiction, fantasy, but not written much. In the way of science fiction or fantasy.
Oh, I'm just looking at the last 5 I've read. I'm reading Logical Family, which is a memoir at the moment by Armistead Maupin. And the 4 I read before that are Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. This is like a deep south reworking of David Copperfield. Help Yourself by Curtis Sissenfeld, which is a collection of short stories. Spring by Ali Smith, which is part of her Seasons quartet. And The Impossible Thing by Belinda Bauer, which is a crime book.
Yay.
So, yeah, I read all sorts of things.
Yeah. See, I've just finished listening to one of my favourite writers. This is Kem McDonnell, Stranger Times and the Dublin trilogy. And another series he's got out is all about the I've got your problem here.
Yeah, my mind's not working properly
it's
today.
when one of the characters from the Dublin trilogy, two of the characters in the Dublin trilogy go off and set up their own investigator agency.
Is this the Bunny McGarry books?
These two characters were in the Bunny McGarry books. This is another series where
flipping heck.
where these two characters from the Bunny McGarry series have set up their own I think it's MC Investigations or something.
Fair enough.
Very funny. A little bit of murder thrown in, a lot of mystery thrown in, and a heck of a lot of Ken McDonald humour, which is very, very good. If you've not read any of his stuff or listened to it as well, I've never read. I've only ever listened to his.
Well, you have read it though. I mean,
I have,
listening
yes,
and reading are not. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
But
still absorbing a book, however you do it.
I think what makes it different with listening is that if you've got a good narrator, and this guy is really good, it really cements the characters in your head. But I'm just about to download onto my Audible book 7 of the Dublin trilogy.
Yes.
I'll leave you to think about that one.
Yes.
There you go. Writers have all sorts of different minds, and some of that includes numbering their books.
Yes. So I was recently interviewed on our local radio, Radio Warrington, and
Small plug there.
The interviewer.
We don't have to pay to talk to her yet, but it's coming.
Said to me, so you've written this series called The Warrington Detective, and I went, yeah, and he said, I believe it was a trilogy. And how many books have you written? I went, 4. He said, so you're good at writing, but you're no good at counting.
You did kind of walk into that.
I did walk into it. Yeah, the book I've just finished is Linda LaPlante does one now that isn't. It's a really nice sort of gentle. Detective series.
I don't. If somebody says Linda LaPlante, I always think of sort of horrific
she
TV series.
She's done a lot of TV series.
Yeah.
This is a Bobby that's trying to make his way in the Met, and he's sort of good, but there's a little bit of
naughty
in him.
Excellent.
So I won't tell you any more than that, but it is a good read.
What was your other question, Mike, about the murderer's mind?
Yes. What? No,
I'm vaguely trying to remember where we started.
Is there a specific murderer's mind? Do you think murderers have a specific mindset?
I don't know.
That makes them do horrendous crime like killing somebody?
Well, we're getting back to nature or nurture when we talk about that, which has always fascinated me.
I suppose it's the thing of, is it spur of the moment or is it in cold blood? Because a premeditated murder and a spur of the moment murder are going to be quite difficult.
Yes, because a psychologist would say we're all capable of killing somebody in the right circumstances. If our children were threatened or something like that. Yeah. Whereas a premeditated murder, especially if that person does more than one murder, it's a different mindset, isn't it? And this is where a forensic psychology comes in, and you get profilers. And I mean, I've watched so many programs and read so many things about psychological profiling, and you sort of say, right, well, it's a male, they're in their late 20s, early 30s, they still live with the mother, they've got mother issues, they have a job where they sit at a computer, they can be quite outgoing, but underneath it all they're very serious. And there's this set profile for somebody who is a psychotic killer. They used to pull the legs off frogs when they were little. All that sort of thing is real.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, oh, they're just doing this for the shock value. But when you actually read a forensic psychologist's profile, a proper one, that's what they're putting.
Which takes you into a deeper area, which we may not necessarily have time to cover. And that is, is there such a thing as evil? Can you have evil people?
Oh, well, that's it, isn't it? I think so.
Yeah, that's my view.
Yeah.
Well, I cut that conversation short.
Sorry,
but no, and
because I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but you can have somebody that is always going to struggle to follow the correct path because of the way who they're born to, the way they're brought up, making bad life choices, etc. But you can have somebody who has been brought into the world with a loving family and had all the benefits in life, not necessarily money, but somebody that cares about them, good education, and they're a killer. Where does that come from?
Well, and therefore you have to maybe wonder or question whether that is some sort of disconnection in their brain, that they don't think like the rest of us. So is their problem a medical one, more so than a...
But it's individual I mean, it's not on the same scale at all, but, think about your kids. I mean, I have 2 kids and they've had, effectively the same upbringing.
Yes, yeah.
But
they're different.
Yes,
Yeah.
In how they approach
Yeah.
things. I have one very methodical kid who will get everything done in good time. I have one who will be there the night before.
Yeah.
And they've both had the same lectures off me,
Yeah.
I'm sure, growing up.
Yeah.
But, one
My-
of them in one ear and out the other,
Yeah.
and the other one actually listens to me.
Yeah.
My 2
sometimes.
boys are the same. Very, very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah, but it does fascinate. When you go back to Jamie Bulger,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I mean, when you look at those 2, they were children themselves,
Yeah.
weren't they? And that touched so many people in a very horrific sort of way. How could children do that to another child? And I don't know what was going on in their heads.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been told
I'm
that
glad I don't, frankly.
the child's brain and a teenage brain, they're not developed till they're about 25 fully. So that's why their children are treated differently. And, a young person will go to a youth offender and all the rest of it. But, yeah.
See, now, when I set these questions right at the beginning, you thought, what are we going to talk about? And
We've had a proper gab,
look where
haven't
we've
we?
got to.
So what
now.
were the 3 questions again? I think we covered the first one.
I think we did,
definitely,
yes.
yeah.
It was thinking about the title of our podcast, which is Only Murders in My Mind.
Ah, yes.
Let's take the word mind from there. And what sort of mind set or mind has each of us got, which I think we did discuss.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of mind do you need to write about murder? Well, you need a mind like Carol's. And is there a specific murderer's mind or mindset?
Yeah. I mean, I think to write about murder or to write crime fiction, I think you need to have a sense of, the structure of a crime novel. We've talked about our reading, and what's going to work and what the reader expects. So like any book, really, you need the crime to be solved and you need some sort of consequence, even if it's, not fully met in the book.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Do we also, I mean, I think that probably the 3 of us do, we throw some humour, or sometimes black humour, into the murder stories that we write. I certainly do it in my short stories. I know, Carol, with
Yeah, me
yours,
too.
you do. And Liz, yours is more cosy mystery.
yeah. I mean,
It's
I
still some
wouldn't
funny-
say I've written a book that has no humour.
No,
I was going to
no,
say,
that's what I'm saying. There's
some of them
humour
do
in-
make me laugh. Yeah,
That's
some,
as well, because you are supposed to.
some
But
of the
is that
things that
part,
are said.
when you're writing something dark, you feel as though you need to put some humour in?
I
Does
think,
the reader need the humour?
well, I was going to say, having worked as a nurse, and when you work as a nurse, especially if you work on A&E, you come in touch with the police a lot because they're bringing people in. And sometimes it was humour and black humour that got us through the darkest hours.
Yes.
So that I was, when I'm writing something in one of my books that's really like, bad, it's really dark. Somewhere along the line, I will try and lighten it with, one of the policemen sort of saying something that the sort of thing policemen do say,
I think you do. I mean, my dad was a prison officer for many years, and he told so many funny stories, and I think that had to be part of the way they got through the day. They had to see the humour in things, because there was a lot of darkness around, and when you've got that darkness, you need some sort of light, don't you? And humour is often that light you need to see you through to the end of the day.
The problem was, especially working on A&E, was especially we're getting towards the end of a long shift and something would strike you as funny, you've got to be aware that somebody could be in one of the cubicles fighting for their life.
Yes.
And you're trying not to laugh, even though it's a bit like hysterical giggling. You get to that stage sort of thing. A man came in once and he had the full bike gear on. He had the great big goggles on that went all the way around his head, the leather hat, like Biggles.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And the gauntlet, and he came in like that.
So it wasn't a cycle as such, it was a motorbike.
And he went, as a young lass being brought in, she's so high, she's got blonde hair, she had such and such a thing on. And we're going, no, nobody of that description's been brought in here. Why? You said, because when I got home, she wasn't on the back of the bike.
So-
And that's exactly what we wanted to do.
Oh, my.
So the receptionist shushed us all off and took his details, and he rang us later and said what had happened. He'd stopped at traffic lights. She'd stood up to tuck her mini skirt in, because we're going back a few years. And he drove off without it. Left her standing in the middle of the road.
So he was in A&E, not because he'd injured himself, but because he was looking for...
He thought his daughter had been injured somehow.
Bless.
Yeah, so we would try not to laugh at that, because he was obviously very upset and worried, and we're going...
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're the sort of things I mean.
All right, so have we answered your questions?
I think so, yes. So
good.
I think for the next time I'll find some more intriguing questions.
I think that
for
would
you.
be quite interesting, actually, Mike.
Yikes. Okay.
And if you've got any questions you want to ask us, then please feel free to put them in the comments on our podcast.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I think we can call that what's the word they say in television? A wrap. I told you my brain's not working. Thanks, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of Only Murders in My Mind. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to Only Murders in My Mind, a Random Thought production, produced by John Bissett. The music in Peril was composed and recorded by OM Studio Strings.